Hello, and welcome to Mickaboo's virtual adoption fair. My name is Robin, and I'm a Mickaboo volunteer, just like everyone else in today's event. While I introduce Mickaboo to those unfamiliar with us, we'll be putting up a poll on Zoom to learn more about our audience. Mickaboo is a 501c3 nonprofit located in Northern California. We are dedicated to education, care, rescue, and adoption for companion birds. We are an all-volunteer organization with no paid staff and no physical location, caring for over 450 birds spread across 100 foster homes. We rely on donations to be able to serve the birds, and due to the poor state that many birds arrive in, our veterinary bills average $50,000 a month, and often more. You'll get to meet some of those birds today. In order, we're going to meet Lynn and Saffron the Cockatiels, Roger the Jenday Conure, Blue and Berry the Budgies, Rikki, Tikki, Tavi, the yellow-naped Amazon, and Shamus and Maggie, the Cockatiels. Before you can adopt, though, you'll need to go through our approvals process in order to ensure that you're fully prepared to bring a bird home. Birds are complex creatures with needs that are completely different from a cat or a dog. They have their own body language, their own physical needs, and even their very own vets. We cover all this and more in our bird care class, which is free and held online every 2 weeks over Zoom. From there, you'll fill out an application and be matched with a phone screener. This conversation will take around an hour and will help us better understand what you're looking for in a bird and your knowledge of birds and bird care. It's a great chance for you to ask any questions you might have after the class. Once the phone screen is complete, the next step is a home visit. Most of the time, this is an in-person visit where a Mickaboo volunteer will visit your home, but sometimes this is done online via Zoom or other software. Regardless of how it's done, the purpose is the same. It's a way for us to identify potential dangers in your home, help you find a good place for a cage, and get to know anyone who will be caring for the bird. We'll want to see any current birds you own, any cages you might have, and see all the parts of the house where the bird is going to be. It's not a white glove test. We don't mind mess, and we don't need to see bedrooms or other places that the bird is never going to be. Once the home visit is over, the entire package is sent off to the approvals board for review. Once you're approved, the coordinator for your first choice species will reach out to speak with you, letting you know you're approved and working with you to find a good match. Then you get to experience the fun part, meeting the birds and finding the one that's perfect for you. In fact, we're hoping that one of the birds we'll be showing today is going to be the perfect fit for you. I'll be introducing you to them one at a time, but as we go along, please don't hesitate to ask any questions you might have, either in the Q&A tab in Zoom or by commenting on the live stream in Facebook. So first up, we are going to be meeting Lynn and Saffron, the Cockatiels, and their human, Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Robin. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty well, and we have two lovely birds and a whole lot of greenery right now.
Yeah, I'm hoping they'll behave themselves and stay on top of their cage. They're quite adventurous, so we may have to crack out the millet. We'll see what happens.
Are you worried they're going to fly off? Are they fully flighted?
Yeah, they do fly, and they also just love exploring. They're very curious and active, and even within 5 minutes of me letting them out, Lynn had gone off to explore my printer, which is just off the camera to the right. So I had to retrieve him a couple of times already. Yeah.
Well, it certainly gives a good view of their personality. So what can you tell us about how they came to Mickaboo?
Lynn and Saffron came to Mickaboo separately. Saffron was found dumped at a nature park in Hayward, and Lynn was found injured in San Jose. But they came in round about the same time, and they ended up getting adopted by some people in 2019 who had just gone through our process. We're looking at cockatiels and found these two charming fellows, and really loved having them. Unfortunately, they are moving out of state, and we've got a change in circumstances, and they had 4 cockatiels. They're not going to be able to keep them. So they've come back to Mickaboo because we always make a commitment. Anytime a bird comes into our care, we will always take them back at any point in the future. If they need to be rehomed, it's actually part of our adoption contract that we'd ask you return them back to us, and we will find a new home that's been through the same process of preparation and education to make sure that they have another good placement.
That makes sense. So the question is, which of these is which?
So Saffron's on the right there, the paler one, that just did a little bit of beak smacking. And Lynn is the gray boy on the left, whose crest is kind of sticking up, and now he's doing some beak smacking. There you go.
So you said one's a boy, but are they both boys or is this a male-female pair?
We think they're both boys, both male.
Oh, and how old are they? Do we know that information?
We have guesstimates. We don't have anything definitive. We think Saffron is around about 12 and Lynn a little bit younger, maybe around 7.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, not too old.
So I know you already said they fly, but do they step up?
They do. They will step up. The trick is to put your hand flat and then approach them with your palm facing the ground and then just slowly offer them the back of your hand. And then they're pretty good about stepping up if you do that. It's not, I wouldn't say it's 100%. I've definitely had them decide they want to go somewhere else, but usually I'm having them step up so that I can bring them out on top of the cage or put them away. And I usually don't have any issues, but they don't like it if you just sort of extend an index finger and push it towards them. But that doesn't work so well. A flat hand is definitely their preference.
Fingers bad, but hand okay.
Hand's good. Yes.
Hand is good.
You got to try everything. Absolutely.
Speaking of treats, what is their food like? Are they on a good diet? What are they eating?
They are mainly eating cakes, so nutrient cakes or Abby cakes. I crumble them up because they are pretty good about picking up the whole thing and dropping it on the floor after they've eaten about 5% of it. So I crumble them into the dish. I have seen Lynn actually pick up the cake and kind of hold it in his foot, which is unusual for cockatiels. Normally I see that in conures and larger. So he does like to hold his food and chew on it. But yeah, I crumble up the cakes and then they're pretty good about finishing them. They also they eat a bit of greens. Lynn is really good with most greens. They've got romaine and fennel on the cage at the moment. Saffron doesn't like greens as much, but has really taken to fennel. So we've got some fennel up there. I think they use it more as a chew toy, actually. I always put it up having just run it under the tap, so it's dripping wet. And I think they like to drink all the water off of it, and then they just start dropping some of it on the floor.
So we just saw a little bit of preening happen. Do they do that a lot? Because that was pretty cute.
Yeah, they do. But it's usually it ends in a comedy tragedy where they don't get a lot of mutual preening in. They tend to have preening headbutting competitions where they're both demanding to be preened, but no one's actually doing any preening. That's kind of their little act where they sort of go on doing that for about 5 minutes and squeaking at each other, insisting that it's the other one's turn to preen them.
The little comedy duo we've got going on here.
They do have real character, and every morning when I uncover them, they're all heart wings and beak smacky. They're incredibly sweet boys.
They seem very sweet. So I was told that male cockatiels are the real singers, talkers, etc. Do either of them talk? Do either of them sing?
Yeah, Lynn is the big singer. He hogs the microphone and he will sing every day. Usually we get a lot of singing just as we're reaching the end of the day. So it's kind of like a bedtime song. He's got a couple that he likes to do a lot. And then he's got one which clearly sounds like someone's ringtone, which I don't enjoy so much, but it's very impressive. And occasionally he'll take that one out and give it an airing.
He'll just make sure that you know that your phone is ringing. So we've talked a little bit about food. We've talked a little about them. Can I ask what kind of cage they're in? Like what size? Because they're only cockatiels. So do they need a small cage or are we looking at something bigger?
We'd recommend something bigger. The cage they're in right now is 32 inches wide by about 21 deep. And about 32 or 34 high. So it's a flight cage. It's got 5/8 of an inch bar spacing. And they make full use of it. They have a rope boing on it, which they quite like actually. They're on that quite a lot. And then some rope perches and a kind of a bridge shaped perch. They've got an assortment of toys. Their favorite toys are finger traps filled full of shredded paper. They really like dainty nibbling on papery stuff. You can see how Saffron is kind of nibbling on the fennel right now. They like to do that on little shredded paper bits as well.
I was just about to ask what their favorite type of toy is because I found that cockatiels are big shredders.
Yeah, well, they're quite dainty about it. They just kind of nibble delicately on individual bits of shredded paper.
Is that one of their toys in the back behind the fennel?
Yeah, there is. If I go over, they'll probably fly away, so I won't walk over there and move it. But there's a bit of shredded paper behind the fennel. So unless Saffron does some cage rearranging, you might not be able to see it. But there's a little bit of a colored paper just kind of behind Lynn's tail. You can see it sitting there.
It's, I'm just kind of amused by Lynn. Seems to be wondering who you're talking to.
Yeah. Well, it's quite funny. After we did our practice run a couple of weeks ago, the moment that I stopped recording them, Lynn actually flew onto the top of my iPad and stared at me as if to say, "Hey, why isn't it all about us anymore?" Yeah, they like the attention.
Oh yeah, they definitely seem to enjoy it. I was just going to ask, because we've seen them marching around and everything, do you think they definitely get along with each other? Do you think they might work well with a third or even fourth cockatiel? Do you think they join the flock dynamic? Because I know you mentioned they came from a house of 4.
Yeah, I think they would. They're quite friendly. They get very excited when I play videos of other cockatiels, which is true of most cockatiels, I think. But they definitely enjoyed, they had the other 2 that they used to live with. They would hang out with them. It could get a bit dramatic. I mean, a bit like budgies, cockatiels will have, birds that they're like their favorite bird. So everybody out of that group seemed to like one bird in particular the best, and then they would all kind of crowd around him and fight over who was going to be his friend. So the dynamics can get a bit fun to watch, but it was all very friendly, and I think they would have fun with more cockatiels to be a bigger flock with. They're very social.
Did the other 2 that they came in with already get adopted, or are they still also up for adoption if someone was looking for 4 cockatiels, say?
They have moved to a foster home where things are going really well, and I'm hopeful. I don't want to jinx it, touch wood, but I'm very hopeful that could result in an adoption. So we'll see. We'll know in probably another couple of weeks or so, I would hope.
They look downright adorable. I do want to remind people that if you do have any questions, either now or even once we're done talking with Lynn and Saffron, you can still leave questions. We'll have a little period at the very end where we can catch any follow-up questions that maybe got missed. So before we move on to our next bird, do you have any fun stories about them?
Saffron's favorite thing to do, I mentioned the flying onto the iPad and the heart wings when I uncover them in the morning. Saffron's favorite thing when they start flying is to fly over and land on your head. Whilst Lynn will sort of land on your arm or your shoulder, Saffron goes for your head every time and then kind of sits there for 30 seconds and then flies away again. So prepare to be landed on. It's quite, it's his favorite party trick, I think.
Some people love that. I love when my birds land on me, but who am I? So thank you very much, Sarah. We're going to move on and we're going to meet Roger Featherer, the Jenday Conure. And Roger's humans, Heidi and Newt. Hello, Heidi.
Hi.
Oh, we've got a very pretty little Jenday right there. He seems very friendly and very active, considering he went right up to the camera, no problem.
Yeah, he's not shy.
And now he's trying to escape the camera. So can you tell us how Roger came to Mickaboo?
Oh yeah, he was in the shelter, and we have a volunteer in the shelter who saw him coming in, and so we got to the shelter right away because he had an eye injury, and that needed to be treated by an avian vet right away, and so that's how he came to Mickaboo. And he's a very, we think he's a very young bird. Probably about 6 months old. It's not quite clear, maybe a little bit older, but he still has this very youngster behavior.
So he's just a little kid avoiding his greens right now.
Actually, he is one of the few birds that we have fostered that actually loves greens. And now I think that toy got more important because there is a little treat in there. But he is one of the only birds that really loves broccoli. He just didn't want to show it on the camera.
Of course, birds never want to show off they'll eat all the greens in the world, but the moment you try and get a camera for it. Oh, there we go. I got a little nibble. So you mentioned that Roger had a little problem with his eye. Is that all fixed up or?
Yeah, so what happened is he got treatment. We think he had some head trauma or something like that. And it caused some nerve damage, and his pupils cannot really contract easily. But the medication really helped with the initial infection that he had. And now it seems like it doesn't really bother him much at all, because he can fly, he can see in 3 dimensions, because he can land everywhere. So he's doing great. So he doesn't need any medication anymore.
I'm just having fun watching his little antics here. So something to keep an eye out.
And
he wanted to get onto your shoulder.
He's really going for it. Yeah, he seems super active. So the eye thing is something to keep an eye on, but not necessarily a concern right now, it sounds like.
It's not holding him back.
Oh no, it's definitely not. Right now, the only thing holding him back is the fact that you haven't reloaded his puzzle toy yet.
Yes, they have not.
Okay,
and so I want to mention he's discovering all these new things that you can just see. He gets on the little swing. He discovers a whole new bird. He is a young bird. So we are trying to teach him all kinds of things, including food. In the beginning, he only ate pellets of one kind. And so we had to teach him that there are really yummy fruits and veggies, and he would only try them when you actually eat them in front of him. And then he realized, oh, that is food. And now he has been turning into a really great eater. He tries everything. And if something is new, you just have to eat it in front of him and say, yummy, yummy. And then he gets really curious about it.
He is very fun to watch. He is so active and so food motivated. Makes for really easy training for sure.
Mm-hmm. And we just started training, so he always reliably steps up and steps down. And I think if he goes to a foster home, because he's still very young, it would be great if he went to a home where people really have time to work with him further, because he's just in the space where he can learn so many things.
Oh, yeah. So I know we talked a little bit about veggies and pellets. Does he have a favorite treat? Maybe whatever he's getting out of his forage toy?
Yeah, it's these are little pine nuts. We also give him a tiny bit of almond slivers or safflower seeds, but they're always very, very small pieces, and that seems to be enough for him to get motivated. But his diet, like I mentioned, has already changed to a lot of like foods, like all kinds of berries, and we try mandarins. He likes banana, and then of course we give him veggies, snow peas. He even eats lettuce and broccoli, and we're still trying new things and see what he eats. But yeah, he is not the only thing he doesn't like, which is really weird because most birds really like apple, but so far he hasn't really touched apple that much.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising. I know conures are big on apple. All of mine will eat some.
Yeah.
We did have one question from the audience, which is, what is the lifespan of a Jenday? And I can tell you it's about 25 to 30 years. They're kind of in the middle range for conures. So he's very young and has a lot of years ahead of him, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to ask, just because I'm seeing it in the background, I assume that's his cage on the back right?
No, this is our other conure that we have adopted. He's like a green cheek conure, but his cage is about the same size. So it's about 28 to 23 inches. Because he loves to climb around, and as you can see, right, he loves to do that in his cage too, and he plays with all the toys. So it needs to be a really decent sized cage for him.
Yeah, how are you going to cram all the cage in there if you get how are you going to cram all the toys in there if you get him a small cage? He's going to need
and
plenty of space.
Growing, and it's just if you have to change out the toys. Now he's on my shoulder.
I was right about to ask, does he fly? But I think he just heard me thinking that question. I think I think if you back up, he'll climb onto his platform.
Yeah.
Oh, there he goes.
Well, some of his wing feathers were clipped, but he knew how to fly already. He was just a little bit unsure in the beginning because of his eye problem. And now as you can see, he loves to fly. And I would really encourage everyone to also not clip his wings because he just loves it. The way we have set this up here, and you can see this, we have this climbing tree. Normally he knows where to fly to. He wants to be on you a lot of the times. But that climbing tree is always a safe place to land. And sometimes he just makes a few rounds with flying and then comes back to the shoulder. So he just really enjoys that.
We just saw him almost attempt to face plant there. We did have an audience question. How do you expect his personality to change as he grows? Do you expect he'll be this energetic for years to come?
I think conures in general are very playful and they like to explore things. He has not really reached his teenage rebellion years, so it could be that he might get a little bit more strong-willed, I would say. At the moment, he has never bitten us at all, but he is getting a little bit beaky with your hands, meaning he likes to chew on your fingers, but it's never really biting hard. And when he is on your shoulder and near your face, he never really makes an attempt to even nibble harder, which is really great. But we cannot really guarantee that it will stay that way, because obviously they are going to develop and go through a whole teenage phase. But I think if you work with him, because he already knows all these things, and keep on working with him and paying attention to him, it could be that he just stays that way.
I think you need a better forage toy for him, because he is so fast with that.
Yeah, he figured that out very quickly.
Yeah, I gave him broccoli this time. He didn't like it.
Listen, if he opens a forage toy, there should be a treat inside, not a piece of broccoli. He has a very strong opinion of that.
Be a treat.
He just seems like such a fun bird. He just seems like a character. Go
He
with
really
that.
is. And he also can say a few words. The reason why he's Roger is because when he calms down and is really content, he always says, Roger, Roger, Roger. So that's why we had to name him Roger. And then the feather came as a second thought, so that's a great name for him.
He definitely seems like a little Roger feather. And now I probably should mention, just because he is a Jenday conure and not everyone's going to be familiar with Jenday conures, how loud is he?
Okay, he can be very loud. To be honest, if he is on my shoulder and he would make his loud call, I would prefer to wear earplugs. The nice thing about him, though, is he only makes the calls when he's in the cage and he wants attention. If you walk by and you don't pay attention to him, then he might make that big call, that loud call. But as you see now, once he's out and he does things and can explore things, it's really quiet. But yeah, in general, I would be a bit hesitant in an apartment because that one call that he makes can be really loud.
Yeah, we generally don't recommend Jendays as apartment birds or for anyone who is sound sensitive in any way, just because their highest volume is not just high, but also high pitched. And it tends to go through walls a bit more than some of the more deeper voiced birds. So as we are wrapping up with Roger Featherer, do you have any fun stories with him?
Yeah, we discover new things with him every day. And like the last few weeks, he is just such an acrobat and climbs all over the place. And it's just so fun to watch. And if he's on your shoulder and is curious about something, for example, when he takes a bath, at the moment, he's only taking a bath at the sink. So we basically let the water, running water come out of the tap. And then he goes down your hand, your arm, and stays on your arm. And then he takes a bath that way. And then the funny thing is that when he's on your arm and he wants to be there, you can do whatever you like. He will stay there. He's not fazed by moving hands or, getting things. He just stays there and kind of keeps up with every movement, just wants to stay on your arm. So that's really funny to watch. He just wants to be with you.
He honestly looks adorable, and I'm sure someone's falling in love with him right now.
Mhm.
So thank you very much, both of you, or I guess all three of you. And we are going to be hopping over to meet Blue and Barry, who are a pair of budgies, also known as parakeets, very commonly, and their human Julie. So hi, Julie.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. So these are Blue and Barry. Which one is which, if you can tell?
Yes. So Blue has the white head and then Barry has the striping on her head.
Okay, so Barry's on the left and Blue is on the right.
Yes.
Perfect. So are these girls? It sounded like.
We believe that they're girls based off of their brown, kind of rough hair. However, they have not been DNA sexed and neither has laid an egg. So it's not 100% certain, but I'm fairly confident it would be females.
Yeah, with budgies, you can generally tell, although there are some color variations that make it very difficult to tell. So how did these two come to Mickaboo?
They were originally in a home, and then whenever, I guess they were just newborns, and then that person decided that they needed to move them to another home, so they gave them as a gift to their brother and sister-in-law. One of the reasons why we really don't give gifts as pets or give pets as gifts. So the brother and sister-in-law had them for about a year and then decided that they just couldn't keep them and needed to surrender them to Mickaboo.
That makes sense. So we know they're from the sounds of that, maybe 2 or 3 years old?
Approximately 2.5-ish.
That makes sense. And budgies will live, I would say, around 15 years or so. So still very young, it sounds like.
Yes.
Are they tame at all?
They are. So they will actually eat out of your hand, and they'll jump onto your hand and whatever you have. They're very food oriented. So if you have food in your hand, they're going to go for your hand.
And what kind of foods do they eat normally? And what kind of foods are they desperate to eat out of your hand?
They will actually eat anything. They are on a regular diet of the Nutri-And cakes, which is what our vet recommends. And it's really a whole diet nutrition. We also supplement that with the Rowdy Bush pellets. And then they get treats. Right now in their cage, they have some celery and also some millet. But basically anything you have, they're interested. So they'll jump into your hand and very gently and chow down.
We just heard a lot of cute little chirping. Which bird was that? And how chatty are they?
They are both kind of chattering with each other right now. Sometimes I think of them as like, two ladies kind of on a bench watching the world go by and telling each other the stories about what they think and what they see. They are in a group right now, or a flock right now, with 3 other budgies. So together they can get pretty chatty. They usually don't get too loud, but they will in the morning whenever they're getting a little bit more excited, be a little bit more boisterous. But normally they pretty much chitter to each other regularly.
Makes sense. They seem absolutely adorable and they're chatting away. And I know someone's going to ask, so I'll ask preemptively, can they be adopted separately?
We would really prefer if they go together. They are quite bonded. You can see how close they are right now. And whenever, they go to bed at night, they're together. Whenever I pull off their cover in the morning, they're always very close together, even though they have, a large flight cage to be around in. And they also love to preen each other and make sure, both of them look good. They'll play together as well. So if they can be adopted together, that would be very preferable.
Another thing is that Mickaboo does require that if you're going to be adopting a cockatiel, budgie, or several other small birds, that you want to get more than one. They are very flock oriented. So of the 5, you think these 2 are the most bonded?
Definitely.
Makes sense.
And they've come together. They've been together for, their whole lives.
Makes sense. And I like how just as we're talking about how close and adorable they are, they're like, let's stand on the exact opposite ends of the perch just to be contradictory. Are they good with kids?
They are, I believe. So I have my nieces that they have been around. They've stepped up on my niece's hands to eat some food out of that. My nieces are 7 and 8 right now. And, we're a little bit younger too. And they came from a home that had 2 young boys. So they are used to being around children.
That's good to know. Not every bird reacts well to the energy of young kids. So making sure that a bird is not going to be panicked by young feet running around the house is pretty important, I would say.
Exactly.
So are they also in a flight cage like the Cockatiels? Because it looks kind of similar.
They are. So right now their flight cage is approximately 35 inches in length. It's about 30 wide and then also 19 in depth. Once again, they're with 3 other budgies. So we want to give them a lot of room to flap their wings around. And we really recommend for budgies, if you can give them something at least 30 inches wide, so they have some room. However, if you really talk to the budgie coordinator, they can give you ideas on minimum cage sizes and what would work best in your home. As big as you could get for a cage is ultimately the best.
It makes sense. A lot of people think small birds mean small cage, but just because they're small, they often end up spending more time in the cage. So they want more space in the cage with more things to do, which looking at the top, it seems like they have a decent amount of things to do going on there. Do they have a favorite toy?
They do, and it actually seems that Barry is very interested. Oh, actually, Blue's going over right now. So this toy that Blue is at, it's kind of they can pull it. It has some wood in it. So that's right now seeming to be the favorite toy. However, we also have the balls that they like to swing off of and flip around as well.
It makes sense. They honestly just seem super cute. I love budgies, and having a whole flock of them is just very nice. I assume you've got quite a flock dynamic going on with the whole group.
Very much so. I kind of like to think of it as like a little council or so. We have our president and our vice president and going on, and they hold their town hall meetings and chat about the day and what needs to go on. So it's really fun to see them together as a flock, and just watching these two as well is hilarious at times.
Yeah, they sound hilarious. And again, if anyone does have any questions, anything they want to ask about this bird, about birds in general, about Mickaboo, feel free to use the Q&A tab, and we will answer you pretty much right away in most cases. So before we move on to our next bird, do you have any fun stories about these two?
I think just watching them in general, so they will kind of chase each other around the cage, in their playtime, and they'll go from one end of the rope perch. One bird will chase the other one down to the end of the rope perch, and then the other one chases the other one back. So watching them do that, their personalities are really starting to come out now. They've been more involved with the toys and just, checking out what's going on. But to watch them preen each other and, just interact is so fun.
They honestly seem really cute and really fun to be around. So hopefully someone fell in love with them as well and wants to either start a flock with them or add them to a flock. So yes. Thank you very much. And we are going to be hopping over to meet Rikki, Tikki, Tavi, the Amazon, and Rikki, Tikki, Tavi's human, Megan.
Hi,
Megan.
Robin. Hey.
Hi. So this is Rikki, Tikki, Tavi.
Yes, he is a yellow naped Amazon.
Oh, he seems very gorgeous, and he seems snuggled right up into your hand or into your fingers there. Looks like he's got a death grip.
Yes, we are buddies. He is holding on tight, but he is pretty cozy. He's he likes to hang out with me all day.
So is he confirmed a male or suspected?
So we don't know for sure. His previous owner said that they did a test, but I have not seen the results of that. But they said they did a DNA test that showed he was male.
So most likely male until suspicions prove otherwise. How old is Rikki, Tikki, Tavi?
Rikki is 41, which is about
Whoa.
middle-aged. Amazons can live to around 80, so he has a long life still ahead of him potentially.
He's nice and middle-aged and older than a lot of the people who are probably watching this.
He is older than me. It feels so funny to care for a pet that's older than I am.
Who's really in charge here, though, Megan? Come on.
It's definitely Rikki.
So we just had a pair of very cute budgies that were very family friendly. Is Rikki a family bird, or is he more of a one-person bird?
Rikki is proving to be a one-person bird. I have a house full of bird lovers, and Rikki has chosen me and anybody else in the house. I think to try and protect me, he will try and attack them. So I think that Rikki will choose who is his person, and then he'll glom onto that person, and you guys will be best buddies.
So if you're adopting and there's more than one of you, maybe be aware that you might not be the chosen person.
Yes.
So normally at this point I'd ask, do they step up? But right there, we've got it. Does he do any
Yes.
other tricks?
Rikki loves to shoulder surf, and I will say that if you have him shoulder surfing, you'll want to wear some clothes you don't care about. You can maybe see I've already got some holes in this sweater from his beak and his claws holding on.
Oh, yep. Does he chew on it, or is it just his claws?
It's mostly his claws, and then when he needs to stabilize or turn himself around, he'll use his beak to hold on.
Is he laughing at me right now?
He is making some, oh, he just said good bird. It's a good bird. And we like to do that. We will go back and forth yelling at each other. It's a good bird.
Nope. Refuses to do it. No, on camera.
Not on camera. He's on his terms.
Oh, that's how it always is with birds. Always. So what is Rikki's diet like?
So Rikki, we are working to get him on a better diet. He came to me eating a lot of table human food that was pretty fattening. So when he came here, I was told his favorite food was toast. So we're working to get him on a proper diet for parrots. So he has been trying a lot of new things. So he likes K-Tech oven bites and Zupreme rainbow pellets. He'll peck at those. And then for fresh things, his favorite, unlike the Roger, he loves apple. Apple has been his favorite thing to get him to eat. And then he's getting better at eating some veggies. He's had some edamame, some corn, some romaine. He's getting better. I like to give him cilantro, and he'll have his whole little beak covered in cilantro. I'm not sure if you just heard that, but he just said stepper up. Rather than say step up, he says stepper up, which I think is so cute.
He looks really cute. He's looking at the camera, giving us a cute face. He's trying to convince us he's innocent, but we all know the truth. He's probably getting into the treat bowl, isn't he?
Oh yes, he loves treats. His favorite treat is an almond in the shell, and he will take that and hold it in his little foot and devour it, and it takes him about 10 to 15 minutes. He just savors that almond. It's really something cute to watch.
It is a treat and a toy.
Exactly, yes.
So, has he been around any other birds, interacted with any of them, or?
So Rikki's currently in quarantine in my house. When you bring a new bird in your house, if you have other birds, it's important to keep them separated for 6 weeks. Since they're prey animals, they hide illnesses. So he hasn't yet met any birds. I have a feeling that when he moves up to my bird room that he'll be okay. He'll still be relying on spending time with me, I think. And here we're going to go do some shoulder surfing.
Oh, he's doing a big climb. So, do we know if he had any birds in his previous home, or was
No, he was a single bird household, and he lived with his previous owner for his whole life. He was with that home for 41 years. And he didn't have any other birds, but he did have lots of time with his owner. His owner used to drive truck, and Rikki would go in the truck with him and sit on the steering wheel for about 20 years of his life. He was a steering wheel riding bird.
We definitely don't recommend that for safety issues, but it makes for a heck of a story.
Exactly. We would not recommend that for safety issues at all. Birds, if they're traveling, should always be in a carrier. But that was Rikki's life for 20 years. We call him Rikki the Wanderer.
I bet he does not agree. It looked like he just kind of went in and started preening your hair. Does he preen your hair a lot?
He preens my hair all the time. He loves to do that. I will sit with him on my Zoom calls. I work from home, and he will just sit here with my virtual background on, blending into the background, preening my hair.
He's going for the hair now. So we've already had a couple words. What else does he say?
So his key go-to phrase is okay, and he likes to say okay, 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 okay under his breath. He'll also say yeah, and what's that? He says hello. The other thing he'll say a lot is his old owner was named Jerry, and I think he's looking for him to come back because he will scream Jerry, looking for him. And usually when you leave a room, once you close the door, he'll start saying bye really loudly like that. He's really funny. But his other big thing that you might have just heard him is he loves to laugh, which is pretty common with Amazons. Once we start laughing, he'll go with us. So let's see if he'll, ha 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 ha. Yeah, we got him to go a little bit.
That's honestly, I love when birds laugh. It is really cute when birds will laugh along with you. Again, if anyone has any questions about Rikki, Tikki, Tavi, or any of the birds before or even after, you can share it in Q&A. He seems honestly a little bit shy, like he's climbing behind your hair to sneak in there.
Yeah, he is just my buddy. He just wants to be with me, so he's not sure who all of you guys are. And he likes to talk when I am talking, so he is making sounds right now. I'm not sure how much you can hear. Oh, thank you for preening.
I could not tell you what he's saying, but I can tell he's saying things, basically.
Yes, he's not saying any just words that I can make out either. But he does talk under his breath like that all day, like he's having a conversation to himself. And he is preening the back of my head now. I'm sorry, he's trying to hide. Of course, when we want to show him off is when he decides he needs to hide.
He's having a fun time. So I know he's 40 years old. Does he have any health issues or?
So unfortunately, Rikki has not been to a vet in over 20 years, which we recommend birds have an annual checkup. So he is actually scheduled to go get his much needed checkup next week. So I haven't seen too many health issues. He does have a few floaters on his eye. So I'm going to have the vet check at that, but that's not uncommon with age, and he's 41. So I think that he's right on track for what we expect for someone his age.
And didn't have a great diet either, which can definitely exacerbate things.
Yes, exactly.
So we've talked a little bit about the cage sizes for small birds. What kind of cage size should an Amazon like Rikki, Tikki, Tavi be in?
Yeah, so in general, they need pretty large cages. He's in a cage that I would not generally recommend for him, but he's in the cage that he's used to, that he had been in his whole life. When I move him up into my room out of quarantine, I plan to try him in my larger cage. I'm really bad with dimensions, but it is pretty big. It is a large cage. We might be able to have, oh, step her up. Hi, yeah, step her up. But it's a pretty large cage. It's as tall as I am. And about as wide as it is tall. So the larger cage, the better for these guys. One thing to keep in mind with is the bar spacing. You never want to have a cage that the bars are so spaced apart that the bird can get their head through. That's a danger to keep in mind.
Yeah, it is not uncommon for birds to come into Mickaboo in cages significantly smaller than they should be in. And sometimes we'll let them quarantine in those cages just to help them adjust. Sometimes if the cage is at all unsafe, if the bar spacing is wrong, like you mentioned, we'll want to swap it over right away, but it varies. And it looks like he's doing just fine. So before we move on to our next set of birds, do you have any fun stories about Rikki?
Yeah, Rikki loves to escape from his cage when we are trying to change out his food and water bowls. He will sneak out. It's not a very big hole, but he will get out. And then the other one is Rikki knows why can't I remember the song? It's a song, it's an old-timey song. He has an old-timey song memorized, and it's a theme song. Andy Griffith, he knows the Andy Griffith theme song. He can whistle the Andy Griffith theme song. So if you like the Andy Griffith show, Rikki is going to be your buddy. He will sing that song with you.
I wonder if it was playing on the radio while he was on his roaming days.
It might have been. It might have been on the radio, or maybe that was Jerry's favorite show. Who knows?
It is a mystery. So Thank you very much for letting us meet Rikki. And thank you to Rikki for preening your human right there. He just popped his head up to look at me for that. All right, and we are going to swap over to Shamus and Maggie, a pair of cockatiels and their human Penny. And I will also note they are joining us via a pre-recorded video because they couldn't be on camera during this adoption fair. I will also additionally note part of this video was shot outside. Anytime a bird is outside, you need to be there watching them, and also they should be in a carrier. One or the other is not enough. While this video was taken, the human was literally sitting beside it. They're just outside camera range. So hello, Penny.
Hi, Robin.
Hi. So can you tell us which one is which? Which one's the gray and which one's the lighter color?
Yes, Shamus is gray cockatiel, and Maggie is the one who's taking the forefront, and that is a female cockatiel.
Oh, I was just about to ask which are they a bonded pair? They seem to be preening each other, or at least demanding the other one preen them.
Yes, they are a bonded pair, so they will have to be adopted together. We believe that Maggie is Shamus's mother, and they do come to Mickaboo, of course, at the same time about 10 years ago. Their owner, unfortunately, had to surrender them because the owner was terminally ill and couldn't care for them any longer.
I think I just saw, is there a bare neck I just saw in that video?
Yes, Shamus does have a problem with nudging Maggie until she preens his neck. As soon as she starts grooming his neck, he starts having a little bald spot. I don't know that the others will grow back, but even if they did, Shamus won't leave her alone until she grooms his neck.
Very strange relationship, but if it works for them, it works for them, I guess.
Yes.
That over preening is something you can discourage, but some birds are definitely a lot more prone to it than others. And it doesn't appear to be hurting him. It's not ideal, but it works okay. Do we know how old these birds are?
We're not exactly sure how old they are. The only thing I know is that they came to us about 10 years ago.
So age unknown, but at least 10 years old. And do you know what the lifespan for a cockatiel is?
About 25 to 30 years.
Okay, so that makes sense. So they're not spring chickens, but they're not old age yet either.
Right.
Are they, because we already had some cockatiels and we've already had some budgies, and some of those have been family birds and some not. Are these, would you say, family birds, or are they more interested in hanging out with a person?
They are not tame. Maggie will bite, and so you have to be careful. When you feed them or change their paper, clean their cage, they're fine, but they don't like hands, so they really don't want a hand up to them.
I mean, if a giant hand swooped down and tried to grab me, I'd be pretty upset too, so I can't blame them too much.
Right, exactly.
So I'm just watching this video right now. Is Shamus taking a bath or is he just drinking there?
He's actually eating. There is food. I have to feed them in 2 separate cups because Maggie likes to eat all the food. So I have to be careful with them. And as long as they have their own separate feeding cups, they seem to be fine. But he's eating right there.
So do they need to be adopted together, or could they be tried with different cockatiels?
They should be adopted together. They did come from a flight cage that the previous foster had. He had 5 cockatiels altogether, so he needed to find some space for Maggie and Shamus. So we took them together, but they have been in a flight cage with other cockatiels and got along well.
Okay, so they could be added into another existing flock without issue, or they could just be kept as a pair. That would also work just fine.
Right.
It looks like on the video they're eating, I think that's spinach.
Yes, they love greens, and most especially spring mix. So I buy the big container of spring mix and I give them some every day. They also eat the Supreme unflavored pellets for medium birds. And I do give them some millet and some seeds as treat, but again, because Maggie likes to eat, I put just a little bit in each food cup instead of just offering a large sprig of millet. They also eat some fruits, some veggies, and they like nuts.
So it sounds like you definitely need to keep an eye on their diet to make sure that Maggie is not chunking up while Shamus is withering away.
That's correct.
And we do encourage people to weigh birds as much as possible. They can be a little bit difficult if they are not hand tame, but still something to keep in mind and work on in general. So aside from the bald neck, which I find kind of amusing because you can't see it the vast majority of the time, it just kind of looks like he has a small head. Do they have any health issues?
No, not at all. Nothing that we've seen. They're very healthy. They're very happy. They're very well adjusted, I should say. They love attention. They love it when people talk to them. So we like to talk to them, and they're very attentive. They'll come to the cage and look at you, and they'll start whistling or chattering. And sometimes they just move their beaks and nothing comes out. They're just moving their beaks as if they're trying to emulate what we're doing and listening to what we're saying.
So it sounds like they would be great passive companions for someone who doesn't necessarily want a bird that's going to step up and cuddle into their face, but someone that they can spend time with, chat to. Do you think they would maybe be good office birds if someone's working at home and wants some companionship?
I think so. They don't need a lot of attention in the sense that you don't have to take them out of the cage to play with them, obviously. So for somebody who just wants a couple of wonderful birds that are entertaining and loving, fun to watch, fun to listen to, Shamus likes to sing to Maggie. And he has about 3 separate distinct songs that he sings to her, and he'll just go up to her ear and just basically start singing.
Does he sing anything recognizable?
No, they're all his own. He's a great composer. They're all masterpieces, and he just likes to sing them right to Maggie. It's really comical. They're so sweet.
It's no Andy Griffith Stone, but maybe the brand new Mozart in the works.
Right, exactly.
What is their bedtime routine like?
They usually go to bed around 7 p.m. They get up around 7 a.m. Now, they will start whistling loudly when they want to be covered. They don't seem to have a problem with noise, but they don't like the light in their face when it's time for them to go to bed.
Are they also a big fan of shredder toys like the last set of cockatiels we met?
Yes, absolutely. The toy that you see there is a shredder toy, and that one I put in the cage that day, and it was gone the next.
Makes sense.
They also like to chew on blocks.
Oh, they're the nice wooden blocks?
Yes, and they've actually taken some of the larger parrot blocks and chewed them until they were able to, throw them on the ground. It's amazing. They love to chew.
Not all. I've found a lot of cockatiels are not huge on wooden toys much and are more shredders. So it's kind of interesting that you've got one that will do, well, 2 that will do both.
Right.
It's pretty interesting, but I guess they have a bit more time in the cage and a bit more time to work their way through a block.
Right, absolutely.
So as we start to head towards wrapping up, do you have any fun stories about these 2?
I just think it's funny that Maggie has a control issue and she will take charge of the perch. So if Shamus is sitting on the perch, she will start nudging him all the way over to the other side until he either gets smashed into the cage or he has to get down onto the next perch. He just loves to knock him off or just smash him into the side of the cage, and he kind of gets mad. They kind of have a little argument, and then he'll move and she'll be happy.
We know who's in charge in this cage.
Absolutely.
There's no question about that.
No.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Penny, and hopefully someone has fallen in love with them.
Thank you, Robin.
We are going to start wrapping up because that is all the birds we have for today's virtual adoption fair. But we do have time for a few more questions. If you have any questions, please let us know via the Q&A tab and we'll answer them in a little bit. If you did fall in love with one of these birds, please contact us. If you haven't started the adoption process, you can get started by signing up on our basic bird care class at mickaboo.org under the classes tab. It's offered about every 2 weeks. And if nobody here seemed like the right bird for you, you can take a look for the other birds on our website, also mickaboo.org. We break it down by species so you can get a good idea of how many we have and what your options are. But keep in mind, there are always new birds coming in. And there are always birds looking for new forever homes. So a few more things before we sign off. First of all, thank you for attending this virtual adoption fair. Adoption fairs are held every month. The next one will be held on June 12th. You can see the adoption fairs and all other Mickaboo events on the events page at our website. We are also going to start running a poll on Zoom that we would love for you to fill out, just asking about your feedback for this. Second, please remember that we are a donation-funded nonprofit, and you can support this work of parrot rescue, including care for all the birds you met today, at mickaboo.org/donate. We'd be really grateful for your support. Third, if you have any ideas or comments on how we can improve for next time, please fill out that little poll we've popped up, or you can send us an email. We're always looking for ways to improve. Last but not least, I'd like to extend a huge thank you to our foster parents and their birds for being brave enough to come on video, and to the other volunteers who've provided technical support to keep this event running smoothly. Please stick with us through the credits to see who they all were, and we'll keep monitoring the Q&A for a bit longer in case you have any questions that haven't been answered yet. And now, roll credits.